pretextual stops. Often African Americans are stopped on disproportionately people of color and mostly African American. That has got to stop. We're aware of the problem. Now we got to make sure we take action to stop that problem. And we will not get out from under federal oversight until we do.
Thank you, Dan. Stephanie?
Sorry, unmuted myself. Thanks for the question, Maisha. It's you know, we have in Oakland experienced systemic racism for generations where policing is concerned and where the disproportionate dehumanization of Black people is also concerned. I think that if we had, with regards to the question here, a community should be reflected, I think, in its police department. I think if we have people who are from Oakland, who have skin in the game, who look like the community, who have experienced life in the community, I think that could play into a vision where our police are guardians and not warriors moving forward. I think Black people are being pulled over 50% of the time while only representing 25% of the population because that's racial profiling. That needs to end. Addressing policing in Oakland as it relates to the Black community involves the people in the community coming together with the police commission, with the city council, with the Coalition for Police Accountability, and with the police department to create an OPD that keeps us safe, and rather than endangers people of color in this city. And we need to sit down and sort that out moving forward, and then reallocate budget according to that.
You want to watch a movie tonight?
Yes, I do. Sure. Actually, I can't wait. Anyway, that's my part. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll bring the popcorn.
So if that person can mute, I have everyone muted, please. Okay, try.
Sure. My vision of OPD is not police officers, but peace officers. They should be servants of the people, facilitating peace in our communities. And in order to do that, we need to have relationships between OPD and the people. And effective relationships can only be formed when OPD is representative of the community. I believe that high cost of housing is probably contributes to folks not being able to live in Oakland, officers not being able to live in Oakland. And I would talk with Black cadets and ask, why is it that there's a high dropout rate? Is it, and listen to what they have to say. And I know that the dropout rate for all officers is pretty high. I think it's like 10% per month, something like that. And so we need to look into that. We need to shift away from this paramilitary style of policing into one that is, again, peace officers serving the community. So I would look at programs like Operation Ceasefire, where it forms relationships with folks who are at risk of being involved in gun violence before it happens. And I think only when OPD is representative of the community will these discretionary stops fall in line with what they should be. We need to restore trust. We need to restore trust with OPD and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tri. Let's go to.
Oh, then come on.
Let's go to Rebecca Kaplan.
Yes, thank you. And I'm really glad you asked this question. The way that our Black officers have been treated is really unacceptable. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that part of what's going on here is not only a differential dropout rate from the academy, which is dramatic. And if you look at the racial disparity in police hiring report, it does highlight this issue. But even beyond that, the discipline rate, the way officers are treated once they're hired, that our Black officers have been targeted and mistreated. And it's actually one of the reasons that it's so important to have independent oversight, to have the disciplinary system not be part of the same chain of command. And it's not only when a police officer does something wrong that you need that independent oversight. In a case where they're wrongly accused of wrongdoing, in that case also you need independent oversight. And so it's part of what we're fighting for with Measure S1 on the November ballot, in order to provide that independent oversight, because we had Black officers wrongly accused by the former administrator and the mayor when they were sending texts to each other, and that was used to abuse people. Now, beyond the treatment of the officers themselves, there's also the question of the treatment of the public. And the racial disparity in traffic stops is significant, both for cars and for bicycles and for pedestrians. And the use of police officers to handle minor traffic infractions has been a huge problem throughout this nation and has led to cases of people ending up killed by police, and predominantly Black people. And that's part of why I'm fighting for us to provide a non-police alternative for enforcement of these type of traffic infractions. We don't need to rely on someone with a gun in order to do that. And by transferring certain things, now not all things, but transferring certain things from police to non-police civilians, like special events, like using trained civilian mental health responders for mental health, and using non-police response for minor traffic infractions, we reduce that danger, we reduce the racial profiling, and we reduce the risk. So those are some of the things that we fought for in this budget with the civilian mental health responders, and that we are advocating for changing this year in terms of the traffic responders, and that traffic safety needs to be about safety and not about profiling.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is Derek Johnson on?
I just got on.
Okay, can you see the question, Derek?
No, what's the question?
Okay, the question is, OPD 2019 statistics show Black officers are underrepresented in the city at roughly 20%. Black cadets have the highest academy dropout rate. Retention is also low for Black officers. Meanwhile, 2018 OPD statistics show Blacks are involved in discretionary stops at roughly 50% of the time, while only representing 25% of the population. What will you do to address policing in Oakland as it relates to the Black community?
Okay, great. Well, excellent question. As a Black man born and raised in Oakland, I've been profiled by the police, and it's a very, very uncomfortable feeling. I feel we need to do the following. We need to reconstruct our police department. We need to make sure that we are hiring those that are Black and brown, that come from the communities that they're going to be sworn to protect and serve. We need to definitely reform the culture of policing. You know, it's a cultural thing, and make sure that we get those that show implicit and bias, negative and prejudice, that we get them out of the police force and institute policies where we can make it easier to get rid of those individuals. We also need to reimagine what policing is like. The police department and the African-American community, there's a huge trust issue. We don't trust police. So how do we do that? City of Chicago has a great program, My Block, My Hood, My City, excuse me, where they have, you know, stipends for young teenagers to take cadets that are currently, like you said, in the academy, and walk them through the neighborhoods, introduce them to business leaders, faith-based leaders, community, you know, just engage them in the community so that they have a different relationship with community. And I think that's one step that we can start building the trust back between law enforcement and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Can we go to Lynette?
We were looking at the email. I didn't even look at my phone, so I'm texting her to tell her that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for an email. I just.
Oh, okay.
I kept waiting, but then it was sent to my phone. So my apology for that.
No problem. Is Carol on?
Let me try to get Lynette, and I can send this to.
If they're not on, that's okay.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
I'm here.
Carol? Okay, Carol, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I see it on my screen here.
Okay.
And I think, well, I appreciate the question. And the reality about policing in the United States of America, not just Oakland, is that it's grown out of slave catching. It's a history of, controlling Black bodies. And the best way that we can react to that is to make sure that our communities are safe, and defunding the police by divesting from the things that Rebecca Kaplan just spoke about, the things that police don't actually have to do, like traffic stops or different parties and things that happen in the city that currently require policing. Like there's a festival right now at the lake with a few Black vendors that police are getting scores of overtime just to sit in their cars at the entryway. We can have security personnel do that. We can have people that are trained in security get those contracts and do it for far less money than it costs the police. And then you'll have also less incidents of racial profiling that lead to potential deaths and costly lawsuits that the city of Oakland has to shell out at the end of the day. So I think it's important to also check in with the Black police officers and find out, why are they quitting? Why is it so hard to retain them? We know that we saw that they are wrongfully accused at times as well, like the incident that happened with the Black police officers, where the mayor used a text to distract from the actual sex trafficking that was happening in OPD. So we have to ensure that the policies are in place to make sure that officers who are engaged in unlawful activity are held accountable, just like average civilians would be held accountable on the street. Right now, it's really difficult to do that. And so we need, there's several things that we need to do to ensure that Black people are safe just to live in their skin in the city of Oakland. And that's why I think one of the reasons that it's so critical to divest and invest in systems that truly keep us safe.
Thank you, Carol. And just checking again to see if Lynette is on.
I'm here.
Okay, Lynette, do you need me to read the question over?
No, ma'am, I see it.
Okay.
I just can't, I don't know if you all can see me because I don't see me on the screen anymore, but can you see me?
I can, let me pull you up.
Yes.
I was gonna say I have the video on, but
Yeah, I see you.
okay. The work of reforming our police department is complex and it's serious, and it has a very significant complication with the negotiated settlement agreement. The racial disparity in Oakland is similar to what we see in all American policing. And I will tell you that it has taken a lot of work and effort to get us into near compliance under the NSA. But I think it's really difficult to get to full compliance given who this monitor is. And we've worked really to begin to shift and improve both oversight as well as performance within the department. So under the defund category, we removed animal services out of OPD several years ago, and we transitioned that work over and made its own department. We civilianized the intake for when people needed to make a complaint. We've now engaged with an additional cut and shift. We are standing up macro to respond to mental health concerns. And we have engaged with Stanford on the largest, most detailed ongoing issue to define implicit bias in the country. We were among the first to use cameras so that we can do that both in terms of training and accountability. And we've been working diligently to increase the number of people who apply for and are retained in the department. That work has been going on for a long time. In fact, the esteemed Tony Cook led an effort that I championed to chair a diversity task force. But those things notwithstanding, the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force that we just put into place now will begin to strategically look at how we can best invest our resources, both to keep our community safe and to reduce those racial disparities. We've noticed a remarkable improvement, but we still have more to go. And it's one of the reasons why I've stood for re-election, so that we can not have to begin again with new relationships with the court and the monitor, but that we can continue to drive home the reforms that are underway.
Thank you, Lynette. And so now I will allow all the candidates to provide their closing remarks. And so we'll start again with District 1, starting with Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an experience, a pleasure, and also really real, and seeing all the work that needs to be done here in Oakland to make sure that we help members of this Black community thrive. And that includes taking a look at housing and making sure that we make it a priority to keep people in their homes. And we reimagine policing. We need to make sure that our seniors are taken care of and not taken advantage of. It's going to take somebody who is a person of action. Plans are great, but action is what is needed now moving forward. I am that person. I would love to represent District 1 and work with the other council members to see to it that Oakland moves forward in a direction where everyone among us has an opportunity to prosper. And thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you, Stephanie. Try.
Thank you for having me. What differentiates me from my colleagues is that I'm committed to expanding participation in local government. I think that's what's needed in order to hold government accountable to the needs of the people. Ideas are great. Promising to take action is great, but only when there's political pressure by facilitating the participation of those who have lost faith in our government. Only when we can regain their trust and their faith can we together, united, take effective actions to solve homelessness, to create affordable housing, to reimagine public safety. And that's what I stand for. I'm the only candidate that has limited my campaign contributions voluntarily to $35 per person so that we restore trust, so that we get special interests out of government. And I'm committed also to reducing the barriers for working class people to engage with government. I am creating and would deploy a online voting system for council measures to enable folks to not have to come to a 6-hour-long meeting. And I think these things are essential to creating an Oakland government of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Try. Dan?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So I appreciate, first of all, having this forum, and thank you so much to all of you who put this together and for all the work you do day in and day out. For example, having authored the Police Commission Charter Measure in 2016, I really have become a leader on police accountability, and I want to work with the Police Commission and my colleagues on the council to make sure that the vital goals of Black Lives Matter are not just slogans, but we actually realize them and work collaboratively to make them happen. I also want to continue and step up our focus to reduce displacement. There's a lot of work that we need to do, and I've been working on that. I'm proud of my record when it comes to securing more funding for affordable housing, protecting renters, and given the higher unemployment rate among African Americans, especially now, I want to prioritize working with my colleagues to bolster workforce training, apprenticeships, job placement, and so on. There's a lot we have to do when it comes to affordable housing. I've been a leader on affordable housing. I will continue to be a leader. I have the policymaking experience, the focus to continue building on my accomplishments and making this city a better place for everyone. I'm proud of my support among many community leaders, elected officials, Keith Carson, Nate Miley, Wilma Chan, Tony Thurman, Malia Cohen, Latifah Simon, Sandra Swanson, people all over the political spectrum, Black Young Democrats of the East Bay, John George Democratic Club. I'm proud of the work I've done. They're supporting me because they see that I'm someone who accomplishes things and I know how to get things done. I hope I have your support as well. Thank you again for doing this wonderful forum. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Carol?
I believe I went first when we started this forum, so I believe the correct order would be for Councilmember McElhaney to go.
That's fine. Lynette, would you like to close?
It's fine for Carol to go. I'm drinking some water. I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you. Carol,
I just want to make sure that what I say isn't duplicated, but that's fine. We can change the order.
Okay.
The reality is that just as we saw in the Oakland Post with the Jobs and Housing Coalition's forum, their poll, is that Black people in the city of Oakland do not feel like things are moving in the right direction. They do not feel like they are being represented. And I am proud to say that I've been endorsed by the John George Democratic Club, the Alameda County Democratic Party, and every single party that is actually operational in the city of Oakland and Alameda County. And it's not just those individuals, but it's also the people who are cleaning up the graffiti off of our buildings, the people who are picking up the dumping, our city workers, our nurses who are on the front lines trying to save us from COVID, but also don't have the proper PPE to make sure that they're safe. So it's our firefighters who are dealing with the toxic air that's coming from all of the smoke that is clouding our lungs. Every single organization where the people are fighting to make our lives better, who are working for our city, have endorsed my campaign. And not just those folks, but residents. We've had over 600 people sign up to volunteer. When I started out, I said, I'm not asking people for endorsements and I'm not asking people for money. I have not picked up the phone to call one person to ask for $1, but have outraised every single person running in this election. And that is because we are building a grassroots movement from the bottom up. It takes the people to demand and make the change, because right now, as we've seen it, it's not working for us. So we need to do something different, and we need to do something immediate because our conditions are urgent. So I look for your support. I know you all can't endorse, but that's fine. Like I said, I wasn't asking for endorsements. I'm asking for people who believe in a better tomorrow to engage today. And I appreciate being here with you all this evening.
Thank you, Carol. Lynette?
Thank you all for the opportunity to stand before you once again to ask for your prayers and your support as we seek to lead our city in these troubled times. Now, certainly we all know that the conditions that are pushed upon Oakland are not necessarily of Oakland's making. And we also know, as my challenger would say, a proper analysis would say that some of the bigger issues that she describes in this race, income inequality and others, require us to have increased activism at the federal and state level, particularly around the federal level. Often we are angry at the high level, but we punch low, which is why you had the question around who is bearing the burden of these progressive changes, often on the backs of low-income African-American elders. I have sought re-election in this race to continue to do the work to harmonize the diverse opinions on this council. And it is no mistake that I've been a target because of that independence. That independence that does not cave in to people who yell or people who bolster or say that they have the right opinion, but the one that says, let us come together and co-create the world, having the most vulnerable at the forefront of our thoughts. For me, this is some of the people who would never get an organizer to march in the streets for them. The community violence where our baby's blood has run deeply. It is the reason why we fought, even wrestled with people on the council to get the Department of Violence Prevention up, not with the mayor's support initially, but it has now become the leading vehicle for this defund movement. You all know that I have led with integrity, even though people want to say that the political setup that led to false ethics charges have something to impugn my character, when in fact, we were following the lead of African-American elders who were concerned about the illegal demolition of a Victorian home. Now, it doesn't always make me popular, and certainly it has made me a target for the largest investment of campaign cash from outside entities to support my challenger to unseat the independent Black voice that you all brought to the council. And so what is at issue in this election is whether or not we will continue to be a people who lead from the people, by the people, or will we allow grotesque amount of money, 5 times more than any time spent in the District 3 race, more than what we spend in the mayoral race, to define who we hear from and who serves us best. Ms. Fife is a noted activist, but that is not the level of governance that is needed at this time to continue the good work that my colleagues and I have begun to turn Oakland from being a laughingstock to one that has been respected in the region. My lead on affordable housing is not from the place of activism, talking about the various tools that we've used for 50 years, land trust, co-ops, those things are not new. But this is about how do we lead now with the integrity of moving forward, not over-promising and certainly not exploiting the pain of this moment to serve wealthy interests that are not of our making. So I ask for your prayers and your continued support. Go to LynetteForOakland.com. Please donate, sign up, because we're being outspent 4-1. But we know that if this call is still on me as it was in 2012, God will restore me. I thank you all for your prayers and your attention tonight.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for putting together this forum and for working to make sure that everybody gets their chance to vote. My name is Rebecca Kaplan. I'm honored to serve as your council member at large, unanimously elected by my colleagues as council president, and I'd be honored to have your vote. We've been working hard to make sure to fight for the city to take action to benefit the community, fighting to fund and conduct the disparity study so that we can solve the problem of the underrepresentation of African American businesses in city contracts, and fighting for that even in the face of resistance, fighting for funding for our local small businesses for COVID response, and to make that funding be given out through our ethnic chambers of commerce, including the African American Chamber, so it will go directly to those in need, and fighting for independent oversight of our police department so that we can have equity and justice and build trust. I'm incredibly honored to be the endorsed candidate of the Democratic Party, as well as the John George Democratic Club, Black Women Organized for Political Action, the Honorable Sandre Swanson, Desi Woods Jones, and Pastor J. Alfred Smith Sr., the Sierra Club, our nurses, our firefighters, and many others. And also on your ballot, it's really important this year to vote early. Consider returning your ballot to an official drop box or to one of the early voting sites we fought to get open, including the Oakland Coliseum and Arena site that will be open October 31st through November 3rd. I would also encourage you, please vote yes on Measure S1 for independent police accountability, and Measure QQ, which will allow our young people aged 16 and 17 to vote in local school board elections, which will create long-term civic engagement. I'm honored to be the lead author on those two measures and share those also as an example of our leadership, which brings courage and builds unity for important action for our city. Thank you so much for having me. You can learn more at kaplanforoakland.org. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rebecca. And we will let Derek go in just 1 second, but I do want to announce that the second session of this event will be rescheduled just out of the concern for security. We just want to make sure that we have the most secure platform. So I'd just like to allow Derek to go, and then after we will close.
You're still muted.
Got you. Am I muted now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. And number one. Number two, my apology. I was waiting for the link. So hopefully I didn't miss any questions. But as a native, born and raised in this city, I will commit to tearing down systems of oppression. I will engage in honest discussion about systematic racism and how we dismantle those systems in government, in organizations, and in individuals' hearts and minds. I will bring everyone to the table to discuss topics that are outside of people's comfort zones. And I will make sure that I keep an open mind, be respectful, and listen. If we're ever going to actually address these deeply rooted systematic issues and create real change, I need to tackle these issues here locally in a uniquely Oakland way. As a diverse and progressive city, we are uniquely positioned to show the nation how it's done. I love this city. I'm born and raised in this city. I'm rooted in this city. I'm a third generation. I have 5 generations of Oakland in my family right now that live here. And I want to make sure that the future of the generations behind me is bright. And not only do we strive, but we thrive. Lastly, please join Senator Kamala Harris, Mayor London Breed, and all of those who are endorsed, including Pastor Maria and Brandon Reams, and vote for me. If you want change, if you want to be effective, if you really want to see the Black community flourish and grow, and I will do that unapologetically, then you will vote Derek Johnson on November 3rd. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me this evening.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you everybody for attending.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
you look back